A famous singer forces a janitor to sing solo just to mock him in front of her entire entourage. She's filming. They're laughing. He's just trying to survive another night shift. But when he opens his mouth, something impossible happens. He hits notes she's spent 20 years trying to reach and never could. The room goes silent. Her smile freezes. Because this janitor isn't who she thinks he is. He has a secret, a past, a gift that was buried under years of grief and sacrifice. Now she's done something she can't take back. What happens when cruelty meets hidden greatness? When someone who thought they had nothing left discovers they had everything all along? And will the truth destroy her or finally set him free? Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments below. The marble floors of the Grandview Performing Arts Center gleamed under Marcus Webb's buffer at 2:47 a.m., reflecting the ornate chandeliers overhead like fallen stars. He guided the machine in steady arcs, the low hum filling the empty lobby, a sound he'd grown to find peaceful over 7 years of night shifts. The building slept around him. Everyone who mattered had gone home hours ago. Marcus was 52, though his shoulders still carried themselves straight despite the janitorial uniform that hung a size too large on his frame. His hands, rough from industrial cleaners and years of manual labor, moved with a precision that seemed out of place for his work. He wore cheap reading glasses that sat crooked on his nose. The frames had been taped at the hinge twice. He switched off the buffer and checked his watch. Break time. His knees creaked as he stood, the kind of ache that never quite went away anymore. He pulled a thermos of black coffee from his supply cart, the metal dented from being dropped too many times, and walked toward the back stairwell where he always took his 15 minutes. The walls here were lined with framed posters. Tonight's featured artist smiled down at him from glossy paper. Vivienne Ashford, in a crimson gown, her hand dramatically pressed to her chest. An evening with a legend, the text proclaimed. 3-time Grammy winner, internationally acclaimed soprano, sold out for 3 consecutive nights. Marcus had cleaned up after her rehearsal earlier. Her dressing room had been a battlefield of discarded water bottles, crumpled sheet music, and an assistant who'd apologized 6 times while he emptied the trash. "She's very particular," the young woman had whispered, as if Vivienne might hear through walls. He sipped his coffee and studied the poster. She was talented, no question. He'd heard pieces of her rehearsal through the ventilation system while he worked the 3rd-floor restrooms. Technically flawless, every note precisely where it should be, hitting marks with the accuracy of a laser level. But there was something missing, something he couldn't quite name. Marcus turned away from the poster and continued down the hallway, his footsteps echoing against the walls. The building felt different at night. Quieter, more honest, somehow. During the day, it belonged to artists like Vivienne Ashford, people who commanded stages and headlines. At night, it belonged to people like him, the invisible ones. He passed the main theater and paused at the doorway, looking into the vast darkness of the auditorium. 1,500 empty seats faced a stage, lit only by a single work light. He'd never told anyone, but sometimes during his breaks, he would stand here and remember. Remember when he used to walk onto stages like this one? Remember when people came to hear him sing? The memory rose before he could stop it. Julliard, 1998. Maestro Sacchetti's studio. The old man's eyes closing as Marcus hit the final note of Nessun Dorma, then opening with something that looked almost like tears. Generational talent, Sacchetti had said quietly. You understand that, yes? What you have is rare. Marcus had understood. He'd felt it in his bones, in the way his voice could fill a room and make time stop. That was before Elena got sick. Before the diagnosis that turned their world into hospitals and insurance claims and midnight drives to the emergency room. Before he'd walked away from a European tour to hold her hand through chemotherapy. Before she died and took his voice with her. He exhaled slowly and let the memory fade. The past didn't pay bills, didn't cover Simone's tuition at Northwestern, didn't keep the lights on in their small apartment in Pilsen. Marcus finished his coffee, crushed the thermos lid back on, and returned to his cart. The brass railings on the grand staircase needed polishing before his shift ended at 6. He pulled out his supplies and got to work, his reflection appearing and disappearing in the metal as he moved. Upstairs, he could hear voices. Vivienne's entourage was still here, probably in the green room, the after-rehearsal celebration that always ran late. Laughter drifted down, sharp and bright. Marcus kept polishing. The railings began to shine. He was halfway up the staircase when he started humming without thinking about it. Just a few bars, nothing intentional. The melody rose from somewhere deep in his chest, muscle memory surfacing like a swimmer coming up for air. Nessun dorma. The aria Sacchetti had loved. The aria that ended with the note only the greatest tenors could hold. Marcus stopped humming immediately, his hand frozen on the railing. His heart beat faster. He hadn't let himself do that in years, hadn't trusted his voice not to crack, not to betray him with its weakness. But for just a moment, it had felt good. He shook his head and returned to polishing, forcing the melody back down where it belonged. The brass gleamed under his cloth. He moved to the next section. Behind him, footsteps clicked against marble. He didn't turn around. Probably someone from the entourage heading to the parking garage. He shifted his cart slightly to give them room to pass. "You." The voice was sharp, amused, familiar from a dozen interviews he'd heard playing on the green room television. Marcus turned. Vivienne Ashford stood 10 feet away, still in her rehearsal clothes, black leggings and an off-shoulder sweater that probably cost more than his monthly rent. Her dark hair was pulled into a high ponytail. She held her phone in one hand, angled slightly toward him. Behind her, her entourage was emerging from the green room hallway. 12 people in expensive casual wear, all holding drinks, all looking bored until they saw what had caught Vivienne's attention. "You were humming opera," Vivienne said, her smile widening. "Just now. I heard you." Marcus straightened, his cleaning cloth still in his hand. "Yes, ma'am. Sorry if I disturbed your evening." "Disturbed?" She laughed, a sound like champagne bubbles. No, I'm delighted. How absolutely charming." She gestured to her entourage. "Everyone, come here. You have to see this." They gathered around her, forming a semicircle. Marcus recognized some faces from earlier. Her manager, a tall man with silver temples. Her vocal coach, a woman with French manicured nails. Her publicist, already filming on a second phone. Vivienne stepped closer, her eyes bright with something that made Marcus's stomach tighten. "Tell me," she said, her voice taking on a theatrical tone. "Do you know opera? Really know it?" "A little, ma'am." "How wonderful." She clasped her hands together. "And what were you humming? I want to make sure I heard correctly." "Nessun dorma." His voice was quiet. "From Turandot." "Oh my God." Vivienne pressed her palm to her chest in mock surprise, glancing at her entourage. "He knows Puccini. Isn't that just—" She trailed off, letting them fill in the blank with their snickers. Marcus said nothing. He'd been here before, not exactly this situation, but close enough. The mockery of service workers who stepped outside their station. He started to turn back to his polishing. "Wait." Vivienne's voice sharpened. "I want to hear you sing it." Marcus stopped. "Right now," she continued, her smile turning venomous. "I insist. Let's hear what a real artist sounds like when they're—" She gestured at his uniform. "Off duty." Her manager stepped forward, pulling a $100 bill from his wallet. He dangled it between two fingers. "Come on, earn it. One aria. That's more than you make in a night, isn't it?" The entourage laughed. Someone whispered something Marcus couldn't quite hear. Phones were rising now, 3, 4, 5 of them recording. Marcus looked at Vivienne. Her eyes were bright with anticipation. She was already tasting this moment, already imagining how she'd describe it later. The janitor who thought he could sing opera. The help with delusions. He could walk away, should walk away, put his head down and finish his shift, and forget this ever happened. But something stirred in his chest. Something that had been sleeping for 20 years. Elena's voice from their last coherent conversation before the morphine took her completely. "Promise me you won't waste it, Marcus. Promise me the gift doesn't die with me." He'd made that promise, then broken it for 2 decades. Marcus set down his cleaning cloth. He wiped his hands on his uniform pants. His pulse hammered in his ears. "All right," he said quietly. Vivienne's smile grew wider. She raised her phone higher. Marcus took a breath, felt his diaphragm engage, felt the old training returning like a forgotten language suddenly remembered. He opened his mouth and began. Nessun dorma. His voice cracked on the first phrase. Rusty, uncertain, exactly what they expected. The entourage erupted in barely suppressed laughter. Vivienne mouthed "Oh my God" to her camera, her expression a perfect mixture of pity and contempt. Marcus closed his eyes, felt for the breath support Maestro Sacchetti had drilled into him for 4 years. Found it. To pure. O Principessa. The sound that emerged was different, now. Richer. Deeper. His voice was older than it had been at 30, weathered by grief and time, but it had gained something in the losing. The technical precision was still there, buried under years of silence, but now it carried weight, sorrow, truth. The laughter stopped. Marcus continued, climbing the aria's ascending phrases. His eyes were still closed. He wasn't singing for them anymore. He was singing for Elena, for Simone, for the man he'd been, and the man he'd buried. The aria built toward its climax. The final phrase, the legendary high B that separated the great tenors from the merely good. Marcus felt it coming, felt his voice reach for it, every muscle remembering the exact placement, the exact support required. He hit it, pure, clear, effortless. And he held it. 2 seconds, 4, 6, 8. The sound filled the lobby, bounced off the marble, climbed to the chandeliers. It was a note that demanded silence, that commanded space. 10 seconds, 12. Marcus opened his eyes. The entourage stood frozen, phones still recording, but the hands holding them had gone slack. Vivienne's smile had turned to stone on her face. Her vocal coach's mouth was open. Marcus let the note fade naturally, gradually, the way Sacchetti had taught him. Never cut a high B. Let it die with dignity. Silence crashed down like a wave. No one moved. No one spoke. Marcus looked at Vivienne. Her face had gone pale under her makeup. The phone in her hand was shaking slightly. He picked up his cleaning cloth, started to turn back to the brass railing, then stopped. I studied under Maestro Sacchetti, he said quietly, at Julliard, class of 98. He met Vivienne's eyes. You studied under his assistant, I believe. The color drained completely from her face. Her hand holding the phone dropped to her side. Marcus Webb turned back to his polishing. Behind him, 12 people stood in perfect silence, their expensive drinks forgotten, their phones still recording a moment that would haunt one of them for the rest of her career. The brass railing began to shine. 3 days after the hallway performance, Marcus's phone rang at 2:15 p.m. He'd just woken up. His night shift schedule meant sleeping until mid-afternoon, and was making coffee when Jerry's name appeared on the screen. Marcus's stomach dropped. Jerry never called during the day. Webb, need you to come in early today. 4 p.m. Building manager wants to see you. The tone was wrong, clipped. Is everything all right? Just be here at 4. The line went dead. At 3:50 p.m., Marcus arrived at the Grandview and climbed the stairs to the 2nd floor. The administrative wing was carpeted, quiet, lined with framed photos of famous performers. A receptionist directed him to a conference room where Brenda Kowalski waited. Operations manager, early 50s, wearing a strained smile that didn't reach her eyes. A single sheet of paper sat on the table between them. Mr. Webb, she gestured to a chair. We received a complaint from Vivienne Ashford's management team regarding Tuesday evening's rehearsal. Marcus's confusion was genuine. What complaint? Brenda read from the paper, harassment of the client, unsolicited performance, disruption of a professional rehearsal environment. That's not what happened. She asked me to sing. Her manager offered me money. That's not what the complaint says. Brenda slid the paper across. According to their statement, you inserted yourself into their space without invitation. Ms. Ashford's team felt uncomfortable. Every sentence was a lie, dressed in corporate language. This isn't true. Nevertheless, we take all VIP complaints seriously. Brenda pulled out a disciplinary form. We're reducing you to 25 hours per week, effective immediately. 25 hours. $600 less per month. Marcus's bank account held $906. Simone's tuition had cleared 2 days ago. Rent was $1,400, due in 12 days. The math was devastating. "I didn't do anything wrong," Marcus said quietly. Brenda slid a pen across the table. "If you refuse to sign, we'll have no choice but to move to termination." Marcus stared at the signature line, thought about fighting, but Brenda's face told him what he already knew. They'd chosen Vivienne Ashford over him before he ever entered this room. He signed. His hand was steady. That was something. Marcus left through the employee entrance. November cold hit his face. He walked 6 blocks before realizing he didn't know where he was going. At 6 p.m., Jerry texted the new schedule. 25 hours, no benefits. Marcus texted back. Received. That night at 2 a.m., unable to sleep, he sat at his kitchen table holding an old playbill, La Bohème, 1999, his name in elegant print. He'd kept it in a bedroom closet for 23 years. His phone buzzed. Simone. "Hey, Dad, you still up?" He couldn't lie to her. "Yeah, baby." "What's wrong?" He told her. The complaint, the write-up, the hours cut. Simone's voice went tight with fury. "That's illegal. She's lying. You need to fight this." "With what?" "I don't have money for a lawyer. I'm not union." "It's not fair." "No, it's not." Marcus looked at the playbill. "But fair doesn't pay rent." They talked for 20 minutes. Simone wanted to come home, to help. Marcus refused. "Your job is school. I'll figure this out." When they hung up, he sat in the dark kitchen with his head in his hands. On the wall, a motivational poster someone had left behind. "Every job is important." Marcus stared at it until the words stopped making sense. 1 week later, Marcus was at the discount grocery store, trying to stretch $60 across 2 weeks, when his phone rang. Simone. Her voice was shaking. "Dad, call me right now. It's important." "I'm calling you now." "Hang up and call back. You need to be somewhere private." Marcus abandoned his cart, walked outside, called her back. "There's an article about you on Chicago Soundcheck." Her voice cracked. "They're calling you a liar." His phone buzzed with her text. Marcus opened the link. "Delusional janitor claims opera credentials, harasses Grammy winner." The photo showed him in his gray uniform, mop visible in the background. Someone had taken it without him knowing. Marcus read. The article described him as a custodial worker who allegedly forced himself on Grammy winner Vivienne Ashford's rehearsal, claiming to have trained at Julliard under maestro Giuseppe Cecchetti before being rejected from the professional opera world. Allegedly forced himself. A quote from a source close to Ashford. Vivienne was gracious and even humored his fantasy. But it became uncomfortable. She felt unsafe. Unsafe. The article continued. Webb's claims appear dubious. Sources within the opera community confirm he was never a professional singer of note and left Julliard under unclear circumstances. Never a professional singer of note. Left under unclear circumstances. Both lies. Dad. Simone's voice pulled him back. Read the comments. Marcus scrolled. Imagine being so delusional. Lol. This is sad. Someone get this man help. I feel bad for Vivienne dealing with this creep. One commenter had researched him. His LinkedIn just says custodial services. Where's your Julliard degree, buddy? These people always have an excuse. Marcus closed the app, looked at his daughter's contact photo. You need to tell them the truth, Simone said. Post your diploma. Tell them about Mom. Tell them who you really are, who he really was. Marcus thought about the box in his closet. His Julliard diploma. Performance programs, reviews praising his uncommon gift. Even if I posted everything, who would believe me? People who care about the truth. The truth doesn't matter when nobody wants to hear it. His voice hardened. She's Vivienne Ashford. I'm nobody. You're not nobody. I'm a janitor who lost his job. That's all anyone sees. They argued, Simone begging him to fight, Marcus trying to explain that defense required platform, credibility, resources he didn't have. Finally, she went quiet. I love you, Dad, no matter what anyone says. I know, baby. After they hung up, Marcus went home, opened the box from his closet, took out his diploma. He pulled out his phone, photographed the embossed seal, his name in elegant script. started writing a post about truth, about sacrifice, about Elena's cancer and impossible choices. Got halfway through and stopped. Who would see it? 43 Facebook friends, no Twitter, no Instagram. Even if people saw it, would they care? Would it change the narrative Vivienne's machine had already built? Marcus stared at the diploma, then put it back in the box. Some battles couldn't be won. That night at work, his first shift on reduced hours, Jerry found him in the basement storage area. Web. Keep a low profile for a while. The article, management saw it. They're not happy about the publicity. Marcus didn't look up. The article's full of lies. Jerry shifted uncomfortably. Yeah, well, just stay out of sight. Marcus spent his shift in forgotten corners, cleaning storage closets, organizing unused equipment, making himself invisible. At 4 a.m., he found a discarded program in the trash. Vivienne's face smiled from the cover. An evening with a legend. Marcus stared at it, then threw it away. The certified letter arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. Marcus signed for it at 3 p.m., knowing what it was before he opened it. He sat at his kitchen table, made coffee he didn't drink, stared at the envelope for 20 minutes. Finally, he opened it. Subject: termination of employment. Effective immediately. Due to violation of professional conduct standards and misrepresentation during the hiring process, your employment with the Grandview Performing Arts Center is terminated effective November 18, 2024. Misrepresentation during the hiring process. He'd never misrepresented anything. 7 years ago, he'd applied for a custodian position, listed his janitorial experience, been hired, done his job. There was only a lie someone needed to justify his firing. Marcus called Jerry. What the hell is happening? Jerry sounded miserable. It came from above me. Way above. The board made the decision. The board? Marcus started pacing. What is this about? Jerry's voice dropped. There was a donation. Anonymous. $50,000. Came with a suggestion that the center upgrade its staffing standards. The floor dropped out. She paid them to fire me. Jerry's silence confirmed it. I'm going to fight this. The union? You're not union. Remember? When we cut your hours last week, you went under 30. That made you ineligible. The trap closed. Cut his hours, made him ineligible, then fired him. Planned from the beginning. You are a good worker, Jerry said quietly. This isn't right. No, it's not. Marcus hung up. He let himself feel it for 5 minutes. The rage, the injustice. Then he forced himself to think practically. $906 in his account. Rent due in 12 days. $1,400. He needed work immediately. Marcus opened his laptop, applied to 7 custodial positions, explained his termination in neutral language. Position eliminated due to organizational restructuring. I was fired because a Grammy winner wanted me gone. Didn't fit in the text box. At 8 p.m., Simone called. He told her, kept his voice steady, factual. Silence. Then, no. Baby, this is my fault, because of my tuition. You should have let me take a semester off. Stop. His voice was firm. This is not your fault. But if I wasn't in school, Simone, your education is not negotiable, ever. I can work full-time. Absolutely not. Your job is school. I will find something else. Her voice broke. I'm coming home this weekend. You have midterms. I don't care. They talked for an hour. Marcus downplayed everything, made it sound manageable. When they hung up, he sat alone in the dark. At 2 a.m., he pulled out an old program, La Bohème, 1999. His name in elegant print, Rodolfo, the poet who loved completely and lost everything. The role fit better now. He thought about Elena, about her final words, delivered through morphine haze. Promise me the gift doesn't die with me. He'd promised. Then spent 21 years breaking that promise. Marcus looked at his reflection in the dark window. A 52-year-old man with $900 and no future, holding a program from a life that felt like someone else's dream. He put the program away, closed the box, returned it to the closet where it belonged, with the rest of his discarded life. That night he dreamed of Elena, young and healthy, sitting third row in a theater, tears streaming down her face as he sang. In the dream, she was proud of him. In the dream, he hadn't wasted everything she'd sacrificed. 2 weeks after his termination, Marcus stood in the Palmer House Hotel lobby, wearing his interview clothes, khakis, the button-down Elena's 2001 tie. Fabric thin at the collar, clean, pressed, the best he had. 23 applications, 19 rejections, 4 silences. This was his first interview. Patricia Hernandez, the facilities manager, was professional, kind eyes, standard questions. Marcus answered honestly. 7 years at the Grandview, excellent attendance, strong work ethic. She seemed impressed. Then she glanced at her computer, typed something. Her expression shifted. She closed the laptop. Mr. Webb will be in touch. The warmth was gone. In the elevator, his phone buzzed. Museum of Contemporary Art. His heart lifted. He stepped outside, called back. Hi, Marcus. David Chen from MCA. Listen, I wanted to be straight with you. Your resume is great, but I got a call about a previous workplace incident. Harassment allegations? We can't take the risk. I'm sorry. The line went dead. Marcus stood on Michigan Avenue. Christmas shoppers flowed around him. Salvation Army bells rang. A child laughed. He called Jerry. Did you tell people I was fired for harassment? Jerry sounded panicked. What? No, I swear. Then how does every HR manager in Chicago know? Silence. Maybe the blog article? People talk. Marcus understood. The article planted the seed. Now it spread through whispers, growing with each retelling. Someone was actively destroying him. He walked for 3 hours, found himself at Millennium Park. A street musician played violin, Bach's Partita No. 2. Marcus closed his eyes, listened. When it ended, he dropped his last $5 in the case. The musician, a young woman with kind eyes, nodded. You look like you needed that. I did. She packed up. Music's funny. Sometimes it's the only thing that makes sense. Marcus sat until dark. He came home to find Simone outside his door. She'd driven from Evanston, arms full of groceries. I had money from tutoring. Marcus had $312 left. His pride was a luxury he couldn't afford. They cooked together. Spaghetti, garlic bread, simple food that tasted like love. At the table, Simone asked, Dad, how bad is it? Marcus was honest. I have enough for rent this month, maybe food. After that, then I'm taking next semester off. No. Marcus's voice was firm. Absolutely not. You sacrificed your career for Mom. The words hung in the air. Marcus's voice softened. That wasn't a sacrifice, baby. That was love. This isn't your burden. They spent the weekend together. Simone left Sunday night, making him promise to call if things got worse. Monday morning, an envelope under his door. Rent increasing $200 per month, starting January 1st. Marcus set it on the table next to rejection emails, the termination letter, his dwindling bank statement. 3 weeks until eviction. He didn't know that, across town, Claire Mendoza had finally found her courage. Claire Mendoza sat in her uncle's home office in Lincoln Park. Roberto Mendoza, 71, conductor of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, reviewed next season's programming, reading glasses perched on his nose. Every Sunday for years, coffee and conversation about music. Their tradition. Today, Claire had an agenda. She pulled out her phone. Uncle Roberto, I need you to listen to something. She'd carried the recording for 3 weeks. Unsure, afraid. She couldn't carry it anymore. Claire played Marcus singing Nessun Dorma. Roberto listened with eyes closed. Complete focus. When it ended, he opened them. Long silence. Who is this? Claire explained. The janitor. Vivienne's cruelty. The performance. Marcus's quiet revelation about Sacchetti. Roberto played it again. And again. On the third listen, he paused. This technique, this is Sacchetti's method. Where did a janitor learn this? He says Julliard, class of '98, studied under Maestro Sacchetti directly. Roberto picked up his phone, made a call. Margaret? Roberto Mendoza. Check your records for Marcus Webb, tenor, graduated late '90s. He waited. Claire watched his face change. You're certain? Send me his file. He hung up, looked at Claire. Marcus Webb, graduated 1998 with honors. Sacchetti's notes, generational talent, the kind you hear once in a lifetime. Roberto spent an hour digging, found Elena Webb's obituary, 2003, found a 1999 La Boheme program, Marcus Webb as Rodolfo. Nothing after 2002. He disappeared. Claire showed him the blog article, explained the firing. Roberto's expression hardened. Vivienne did this. Giuseppe would be ashamed of her. He needed Marcus's contact information. Claire didn't have it. Roberto called the Performing Arts Center. Brendan Kowalski, ice professional, refused to give out information. This is Maestro Roberto Mendoza, conductor of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. Mr. Webb has a professional opportunity. I need to contact him immediately. Brenda's tone shifted. Nervous. I'll see what I can find. 30 minutes later, she called back with a phone number. That evening, Roberto called. Marcus was scrolling job listings when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Hello? Mr. Webb? Roberto Mendoza. I believe you knew my teacher, Giuseppe Sacchetti. Marcus went completely still. Yes, Maestro Sacchetti. He was a genius, and according to his notes, so are you. My niece sent me a recording of your performance. I'd very much like to speak with you in person. Tomorrow morning? Marcus's hands shook. Maestro, I haven't performed professionally in 20 years. I'm just trying to find work. Then let me help you find the right work. Please, one conversation. I owe it to Giuseppe's memory. Marcus agreed. Couldn't think of a reason to refuse. 10 a.m. tomorrow. A cafe near Marcus's apartment. When they hung up, Marcus sat in stunned silence. He didn't let himself hope. Hope was dangerous. 3 weeks from homelessness. But something flickered anyway. That night, he did something he hadn't done in years. Pulled out the box of old programs, sat on his bedroom floor, read them all, remembered who he was. Allowed himself, just for a moment, to wonder if he could be that person again. At 9:47 a.m., Marcus sat in a corner booth at the Overflow Cafe, nursing a $3.50 coffee he could barely afford. His leg bounced under the table. At precisely 10, an elderly Latino man entered. White hair, elegant wool coat, Italian leather shoes, whispering wealth. Roberto Mendoza spotted Marcus, smiled. They shook hands. Roberto insisted on buying breakfast. Marcus asked for toast. Roberto ordered for them both. As they ate, Roberto asked Marcus to tell his story. Everything. Marcus was hesitant, but Roberto's interest unlocked something. Julliard, Sacchetti, regional productions. Elena meeting her at a chamber concert, falling completely in love. Roberto asked gently, "What made you leave music?" "My wife got sick, stage 4 cancer. She was 31. I was starting a European tour. I canceled everything. There was no choice. I chose her. Every time. Medical bills, 2 years of caregiving. By the time she died, I was 33, and I'd been gone 2 years. In opera, that's a lifetime, and I couldn't sing. Every time I tried, I heard silence." Roberto listened. Long pause. Giuseppe used to say technique can be taught, but artistry lives in suffering. The voice I heard, that's not someone who walked away. That's someone who loved completely and lost everything. There's a depth that cannot be faked. Marcus's eyes were wet. I just needed rent money, Maestro. I wasn't trying to make art. The greatest art is never trying. It simply is. Roberto explained. The CSO's 2025-26 opera season, La Boheme, Carmen, Tosca, still casting. I want you to audition for Rodolfo. Not as a favor, as a professional opportunity. Marcus shook his head. I haven't had a lesson in 17 years. I don't have the stamina. You held a high B for 12 seconds after a full day of labor. Your instrument is intact. You need confidence. Reality intruded. I can't afford to prepare. I'm 3 weeks from eviction. Roberto considered, what if I could offer both, income and preparation? He explained, community outreach program, music education for underserved schools, 6-month contract, $52,000 annually, 26 for 6 months. Benefits included, start January 2nd, Over $4,000 a month. Why? Roberto's answer was simple. Giuseppe believed in you. I believe in Giuseppe. Marcus accepted. That afternoon, he signed a contract at Symphony Center, met the team, received his packet, walked out into December afternoon, dazed. Called Simone. She screamed, "Dad, this is amazing." Marcus smiled but stayed cautious. "It's 6 months, baby, not a career. It's hope, Dad. That's more than you had yesterday." That night, Marcus realized something. He hadn't really sung in 17 years, audition in 8 weeks. If he was going to do this, he needed to start now. The decision terrified him. January 3rd. Marcus's first day at the CSO education program. He arrived at Symphony Center at 8:30 a.m. in new business casual, bought with his signing bonus. He met his team, 3 other coordinators, younger, enthusiastic. His role: design curriculum, visit schools, mornings in office, afternoons in classrooms. Overwhelming. Perfect. First week, orientation and planning. Marcus discovered he was good at this. Curriculum design felt natural. He designed a program teaching music theory through hip-hop and R&B, accessible to kids who thought classical wasn't for them. His colleagues were impressed. "Marcus, this is exactly what we needed." But parallel to this success, Marcus began harder work, reclaiming his voice. Roberto connected him with Yana Petrovich, Vivienne's former vocal coach. Yana had left after the incident. "I do not work with cruelty." She agreed to coach Marcus for free. "I owe it to Giuseppe's memory." The first lesson was brutal. Marcus tried singing a simple scale. His voice cracked on the 5th note. Yana was clinical. "You have built walls around your instrument. We must demolish them." She made him breathe. Just breathe. 20 minutes. The voice is breath made visible. You have forgotten how to breathe. Marcus was frustrated. "I used to be able to do this." Used to is the enemy of now. We do not chase the past. We build the present. Week 1. Marcus could barely sustain a phrase. Yana made him lie on the floor, place a book on his stomach, breathe so it rose. This is foundation. Everything else is decoration. Week 2. Vowel placement. Yana merciless. "No." Again. The ah is in the mask, not the throat. 45 minutes on a single phrase. Marcus left hoarse, defeated, called Simone. "Baby, I don't know if I can do this." "Yes, you can. You just forgot how. Remembering isn't the same as starting over." Week 3. Something clicked. Marcus was singing C'è gelida manina. Midway through the 2nd verse, muscle memory fully awakened. The phrase floated out, effortless, pure. Yana stopped playing, stood, gripped his shoulders. "There, that is the voice Giuseppe heard." Marcus's eyes were wet. I felt it. Then we build from that moment. Week 4, full days at CSO, school visits in afternoons, voice lessons 3 evenings weekly. Exhausted but purposeful. One afternoon in Englewood, a boy named Deshaun asked, "Mr. Webb, can you sing for us?" Marcus sang a simple spiritual "Sometimes I feel like a motherless child." The room went silent. Deshaun said, "That made me feel something, like sadness and hope at the same time." Marcus nodded. That's what music does. It holds things words can't. By late January, Marcus sang full arias. Roberto attended a lesson, listened from the back. Afterward, "The audition is in 2 weeks. Are you ready?" "I don't know. But I'm more ready than I was a month ago." "Then that will have to be enough. Trust the work." One Sunday, Simone visited. She'd never heard her father truly sing. She sat in on a lesson, watched him perform Nessun Dorma. When he finished, Simone was crying. "Dad, I never knew. Mom told me you were good, but I didn't understand." Marcus held her. "Your mom heard me at my best. I'm trying to find my way back. You're already there." February 7th, day before the audition. Marcus couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Lay in bed at 2 a.m., terror and hope warring. His phone buzzed. "Roberto, Giuseppe used to say, the voice knows the way. Your job is simply to follow. Trust yourself, Marcus. See you tomorrow." Marcus read it 3 times. Got up, made tea, sat at his table, thought about Elena. About Simone. About the janitor, who sang in an empty theater because he couldn't help himself. He decided, whatever happened tomorrow, he'd already won. He got to sing again. Everything else was grace. February 8th, 10:15 a.m. Marcus stood backstage at Orchestra Hall in Symphony Center. The stage had hosted Yo-Yo Ma, Itzhak Perlman, every legendary classical musician of the past century. Now it would host him. 7 tenors auditioning for Rodolfo. The other 6 were younger, late 20s to 30s, several with major house credits. They sized each other up with professional courtesy, barely masking competitive anxiety. Marcus, at 52, was by far the oldest. Claire Mendoza was the rehearsal pianist. She'd volunteered to be there for him. During the break before his slot, she found him. "How are you feeling?" "Terrified. Like I'm about to jump off a cliff." Claire smiled. "Then jump. I'll be right there with you." The panel sat in the 10th row. Roberto, the CSO's artistic director Patricia Lim, 2 guest directors from Lyric Opera, professional neutrality, notes, whispered conferences. The first 3 tenors performed, technically competent, 1 quite good 31, Houston Grand Opera credit, polite applause after each. At 11:40, Marcus's name was called. He walked onto the stage, lights blinding. Roberto nodded from the darkness. Claire settled at the piano. Patricia Lim's voice, "Mr. Webb, please slate your name and what you'll be singing." Marcus Webb. "Che gelida manina," from Puccini's La Bohème. Claire played the opening bars. Marcus took a breath. The foundation of everything Yana had taught him began. The first phrase was tentative, nerves audible, but by the second line something shifted. The lights, the audience, the stakes, they fell away. He wasn't in Orchestra Hall. He was Rodolfo in a Paris garret, seeing Mimi, falling in love in real time. His voice opened up, warm, ardent, soaring. The panel sat forward. The aria built. "Ma quando vien lo cielo il primo sole è mio." Marcus poured everything into it. 20 years of silence. Elena, gratitude. The final phrase floated into the hall, pure, unforced. He finished. Silence. Then Roberto began to clap. The others joined. Not polite. Real. "Patricia Lim, Mr. Webb, that was extraordinary. Can you tell us about your training?" "Julliard, Sacchetti, Regional Productions. And you've been away from performing for 17 years. The guest directors exchanged glances. "Why the gap?" "I was caring for my wife. She had cancer. After she died, I lost the music for a while, but I'm finding it again." They asked him to sing another piece, a Lucivan La Stella, from Tosca. Better than the first, more controlled, devastating, longer silence. Roberto stood. "Thank you, Mr. Webb. We'll be in touch by Monday." Marcus walked off stage, legs shaking. He did it. In the green room, the Houston tenor passed him. "Man, that was beautiful. You made me nervous." Marcus managed a smile. "You'll be great." When the building quieted, Marcus let himself feel, texted Simone. "I sang, really sang. Whatever happens next, I'm proud of myself." Immediate response, "I'm proud of you too, Dad. Always have been." Marcus walked to the lakefront. Brutally cold February afternoon. He stood at the railing. "I did it, baby," he said aloud. "I sang for you." The wind carried his words away. His phone rang. "Roberto." "Marcus, can you come back to my office? There's something I'd like to discuss." Marcus rode the elevator to the 4th floor, his mind racing. Good news or gentle rejection? Roberto's assistant ushered him in. Roberto was there. Patricia Lim too. They were smiling. Marcus's hope spiraled upward. Roberto gestured for him to sit. Patricia spoke. "Mr. Webb, we were unanimous. You are our Rodolfo for next season's La Bohème. We'd like to offer you the role." Marcus's entire body went still. "I thank you. I don't know what to say." Roberto smiled. "Say yes." Marcus laughed shakily. "Yes. Absolutely yes. Logistics. 6 performances in October and November. Contract included rehearsal time starting September. Stipend $45,000. Patricia, this is our standard principal artist rate. You'll continue your education work through August, so steady income until rehearsals. More money than he'd seen in a decade. I won't let you down. We know. Roberto's expression became serious. Marcus, there's something else. Your situation with Vivienne Ashford. Marcus tensed. What about it? What she did, the termination, the blacklisting, it cannot stand, not just for you, but because behavior like hers poisons the entire community. We'd like to make a public statement. What kind of statement? Patricia laid it out. Vivienne's performing a concert with us February 15th, 1 week from today. Sold out. We'd like to add you to the program. Surprise guest appearance. We announce your casting, you perform one aria, and we let the public connect the dots. Marcus's stomach flipped. She'll be there? Roberto nodded. Which is precisely the point. She humiliated you publicly. Your vindication should be equally public. Marcus was torn. I don't want to build my comeback on someone else's destruction. Roberto's response was firm. This isn't about destruction. It's about truth. Vivienne's people have been spreading rumors for months. Those need to be countered publicly or they'll haunt your career. This concert gives us that platform. Marcus asked for time to think. Called Simone that evening. She was conflicted too. Will it make you feel better? Or just drag you into her mess? I don't know. Part of me wants her to see what she tried to destroy. Part of me just wants to sing. Simone thought, what would Mom say? Marcus smiled. Elena always cut through his overthinking. She'd say, Marcus, stop being noble and let them celebrate you. Simone laughed. Then there's your answer. The next morning, Marcus called Roberto. I'll do it, but I'm not doing this to humiliate her. I'm doing it because the truth needs to be public. Agreed. This is about restoration, not revenge. They planned. Marcus would perform Nessuan Dorma, the same aria Vivienne forced him to sing in that hallway. The symmetry was deliberate. Roberto would introduce him, explain his background, announce his casting. And Marcus? Vivienne doesn't know yet. This will be a surprise to her too. The next days blurred. Marcus rehearsed with the full orchestra, first time in 20 years. The power of it brought tears. Claire told him, you're going to change lives, Marcus. People need to see this. What if I fail? What if my voice cracks? Then you'll be human. But you won't fail. Trust me. February 15th arrived. Marcus woke at 5 a.m., too nervous to sleep. Concert at 7:30 a.m., 14 hours to get through. At 5 p.m., he arrived for pre-concert rehearsal. The orchestra setting up, Vivienne already there, running through her set. She didn't notice Marcus in the wings. But in a few hours, she would. 7:15 p.m., orchestra hall filled to capacity. 1,800 people. Electric energy. Vivienne Ashford's crossover concert, promoted for months. Backstage, Marcus stood in the green room, wearing a CSO tuxedo. His hands shook. Roberto appeared. It's almost time. How are you feeling? Like I might throw up. Roberto smiled. Good. That means you care. Elena would be so proud. Her name steadied him. Let's do this. The concert began. Vivienne performed 3 songs, technically flawless, emotionally sterile, polite applause, muted energy. Halfway through her set, Roberto walked onto the stage during a break. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special addition to tonight's program. Vivienne, in the wings, looked confused. She didn't authorize this. Roberto continued. I'd like to introduce a very special artist. This man's story is one of sacrifice, loss, and redemption. He told Marcus's story. Julliard, Sacchetti, the promising career, Elena's cancer, 17 years of silence. He didn't mention Vivienne, not yet, but he planted seeds. Marcus worked as a custodian in Chicago's theaters, keeping the very stages clean where he once might have performed. The audience was rapt. Recently, his extraordinary talent was rediscovered. I'm thrilled to announce that Marcus Webb will be the principal tenor in our 2025-26 production of La Bohème. The crowd murmured. Excited, curious. Vivienne had gone pale. She recognized the name. Her manager, Derek, was Googling frantically. He whispered, "That's the janitor, from your rehearsal." Vivienne's expression hardened. What the hell is he doing here? Roberto extended his hand toward the wings. Please welcome Marcus Webb. Marcus walked onto the stage. Lights blinding. He found his mark. Claire at the piano. Orchestra ready. Marcus faced the audience. Took a breath. Began Nessun Dorma. The transformation was immediate. This wasn't tentative. This was an artist who'd fought his way back and had nothing left to prove. His voice filled the hall. Rich, powerful, transparent. The audience sat frozen. By the second verse, people in front rows were crying. The aria climbed. Vincerò. I will win. Marcus held the high B. 15 seconds. Effortlessly sustained. A declaration of triumph over everything that tried to silence him. The final phrase resonated. Silence. Then the audience erupted. People rose, not politely, but urgently, pulled by the same string. The ovation was deafening. Marcus stood center stage, tears streaming, bowing. 2 minutes. 3. Roberto in the wings, eyes wet. Claire sobbing at the piano, and Vivienne. Vivienne stood in the opposite wing, her face horror and fury. She watched the standing ovation, watched her audience, her fans, giving themselves completely to someone else. Derek touched her arm. We should go. She couldn't move. Trapped, forced to witness the consequences of her cruelty. When applause finally subsided and Marcus exited, opposite side, Vivienne realized she still had 3 songs left. Roberto returned to the microphone. Thank you, Marcus Webb, everyone. Another wave of applause. Then, with perfect timing, I should mention Marcus was working as a custodian at the Performing Arts Center until recently. His talent was discovered quite by accident when someone asked him to sing. Fortunately, there are still people in this world who recognize artistry when they hear it. He didn't say Vivienne's name. He didn't have to. The implication hung. Some audience members were already connecting pieces, whispering. Vivienne returned for her final songs. Plastic smile, adequate performance, technical precision there. But the audience's energy had evaporated. They'd heard something real. Everything after felt hollow. When she finished, applause was respectful but cool. No standing ovation. People already checking phones, Googling, finding the blog article, reading between lines. Social media igniting. After the concert, Marcus was mobbed in the lobby. Critics, audience members, lyric opera representatives. Roberto guided him through the crowd. They escaped to his office. Marcus, you were magnificent. Marcus could barely process it. I can't believe that happened. Roberto handed him his phone. The internet Marcus scrawled. Marcus Webb, trending in Chicago. Videos already shared. Then he saw it. Someone posted the blog article, side by side with tonight's video. Caption, this is the delusional janitor. Listen to him, then tell me who's delusional. 15,000 retweets in an hour. It's going viral. Roberto smiled. You're going viral. There's a difference. Marcus went home. Exhausted, exhilarated. Messages from Simone ecstatic. Former classmates, journalists. And one unknown number. You destroyed me. I hope you're happy. He knew who sent it. Deleted it without responding. Vivienne's destruction was never the goal. But her confrontation with consequences was inevitable. Marcus slept soundly for the first time in months. 3 days after the concert, Marcus sat in his apartment scrolling through his phone, still unable to believe what he was seeing. The video of his performance had been viewed 2.3 million times. The Chicago Tribune had published a feature, From Janitor to Principal Tenor, Marcus Webb's remarkable journey. His phone hadn't stopped ringing. Interview requests from outlets he'd only ever heard on the radio. Meanwhile, Vivienne's world was collapsing in real time. Within 48 hours, 3 major venues had canceled her upcoming performances. Her Instagram comments, once fawning, were now brutal. Her publicist released a statement about taking time for personal reflection, but everyone in the industry knew what that meant. Freefall. Tyler Brennan, the blogger who'd written the original hit piece, published an apology admitting he'd run the story without fact-checking. National media picked it up. Chicago Soundcheck removed the original article entirely. But the internet never forgets. Marcus did a sit-down interview with WGN News. When asked how he felt about Vivienne's career collapse, his answer surprised people. "I don't take pleasure in anyone's suffering." What I hope comes from this is that we start questioning why we value cruelty disguised as perfectionism. Vivienne is a talented singer. She doesn't need to tear others down to prove that. The interview went viral for its grace. Marcus became more than a feel-good story. He became a symbol, dignity in the face of cruelty, second chances, the truth that a person's worth is never determined by their circumstances. That same afternoon, a courier delivered a handwritten letter, no return address. Marcus opened it standing in his kitchen. It was from Vivienne, short, unsigned. "Mr. Webb, I don't expect forgiveness. I wanted to hurt you because your talent reminded me of everything I'm not. You sang with your whole heart in a hallway, without an audience, just because the music demanded it. I've spent 20 years chasing perfection and never once felt what you felt. I was cruel because I was empty. I'm sorry." Marcus read it twice, folded it carefully, put it in a drawer. He didn't respond. Some apologies aren't meant to be answered. They're meant to be witnessed. That evening, his phone rang. "Roberto, Marcus, I have something I'd like to discuss. Can we meet tomorrow?" They met the next morning at a coffee shop in the Loop. Roberto had brought Patricia Lim and Diane Foster, the CSO's Director of Development. Roberto got straight to the point. "Your story has resonated with millions of people. We've been flooded with messages from artists who walked away from their careers for family, for health, for economic survival. Your comeback has given them hope." Diane slid a folder across the table. "We'd like to create a foundation in Elena's name, the Elena Webb Foundation for Late-Blooming Artists. Financial support, training and performance opportunities for musicians who left the profession and want to return." Marcus opened the folder. Full proposal. $2 million already secured from donors, moved by his concert. "You want to name it after Elena?" Roberto's voice was warm. "Your career ended so you could care for her. Your second chance should honor her memory and help others." Marcus had one condition. "If we do this, I want Claire Mendoza involved. Without her, none of this happens." Roberto smiled. "She's already agreed to be the musical director." Marcus felt the pieces clicking into place. Then, yes, let's do it. They launched the Elena Webb Foundation in June. By August, they'd received over 300 applications and selected their first cohort of 10 fellows: a violinist who'd left to care for her disabled mother, a baritone who'd worked construction for 15 years, a pianist who'd been told arthritis had ended her career. Marcus read every application, stayed up late with tears streaming down his face, recognizing his own story in theirs. One fellow, Teresa Owens, a 47-year-old mezzo-soprano who'd left opera to raise 3 kids, told him on their first day, "I was about to give up completely. I saw your performance and thought, maybe there's still time." Marcus's response was simple. "Thank you for believing. That's the hardest part." October 23rd, 2025. Marcus stood in his dressing room at the Civic Opera House 2 hours before opening night of La Bohème. 3,500 people were filing into their seats. People who couldn't get tickets were waiting outside, hoping to hear through the walls. The foundation he and Roberto had launched in June already had its first 10 fellows in training. 3 more CSO productions were contracted for next season. The Met had called expressing interest. But right now, none of that mattered. Right now, he was just a man about to step into a role he'd last performed 26 years ago. A knock on the door. Simone entered, radiant in an evening dress. "Dad, the house is packed." She helped him with his costume, the bohemian coat, the weathered scarf. Her hands were gentle, careful. "How do you feel?" "Terrified. Grateful. Ready." Simone kissed his cheek. "Mom's here too. I can feel her." Marcus nodded, his throat tight. "Me too, baby." Roberto appeared for the final check. Marcus sang a quick scale. Clear, warm, ready. "Remember," Roberto said quietly, "this isn't about perfection, it's about truth." Roberto Fo loves completely and loses everything. You know that story better than anyone. Marcus gripped his mentor's hand. "Thank you for seeing me. Giuseppe saw you first. I just had the wisdom to listen." The opera began. For the next 2.5 hours, Marcus Webb disappeared entirely. There was only Rodolfo, brilliant, impoverished, falling desperately in love with the fragile seamstress Mimi. When he sang Che gelida manina, holding Mimi's frozen hand, his voice ached with such tenderness that people in the audience grabbed the hands of the person beside them. When Mimi died in Act 4, Marcus's grief was so raw, so utterly real, that the sobbing in the audience was audible even over the orchestra. The death scene, the climax of everything. Mimi lay on the bed, her breath failing. Rodolfo realized she was dying. Ma'am, ma'am. His voice broke on her name. Not a technical crack, an emotional shattering. She died in his arms. Rodolfo's final scream, Mimi, was a howl of absolute loss that seemed to come from somewhere beyond performance, beyond pretense. The orchestra crashed its final chord. Silence descended. The lights faded to black. For 3 full seconds, the audience sat frozen. Then they exploded. The standing ovation began before the curtain even fell. People leaped to their feet as if pulled by invisible strings. The applause was thunderous, sustained, relentless. When Marcus stepped forward for his solo bow, flowers rained onto the stage. The ovation continued for 7 minutes, an eternity in theater time. Backstage, Roberto stood with tears streaming down his face. Giuseppe saw you, Marcus. He knew. Claire appeared and hugged him without words. Simone fought through the crowd and threw her arms around her father. They were both crying. Mom was here, Simone said. I felt her in every note. So did I, baby. So did I. The reviews that posted within hours were unanimous. The Tribune, a triumph. The Sun-Times, Marcus Webb's Rodolfo is the performance of the decade. The New York Times, not since Pavarotti has a tenor found this much truth in Puccini's Heartbreak. All 6 performances sold out within 48 hours. They added 4 more. The next afternoon, Marcus drove to the cemetery where Elena was buried. He hadn't been in months, too consumed by the whirlwind of his new life. He brought flowers and a copy of last night's program, his name printed in elegant font under the title Roll. He sat on the grass beside her headstone, the October sun warm on his shoulders. Hey, baby, he said quietly. I'm sorry it's been a while. He told her about the opening night, about Simone sitting front row, crying through the final act, about the foundation they'd named in her honor, about the 10 fellows who were getting the second chance he'd been given. I wish you could see all of this, he said, but I think you can somehow. Simone thinks so too. He paused, watching autumn leaves drift across the grass. I was angry at you for a long time. You know, after you died. Angry that you left. Angry that caring for you cost me my career. His voice caught. I'm sorry for that anger, because you gave me something more important than a career. You taught me what it means to love completely. He placed the program gently against the headstone. That's what people hear when I sing now. They hear you. They hear what you taught me about love. Marcus sat for a long time in the autumn quiet. Then he stood, touched his fingers to her name carved in stone, and walked back to his car. The evening air was cool and clear. He had 9 more performances ahead of him. 20 fellows starting the foundation program in the spring. A daughter thriving in graduate school. But right now, he just felt grateful. Grateful for the second chance. Grateful for the music that had found its way back to him. Grateful for Elena, who'd believed in him even when he couldn't believe in himself. He drove home as the sun set over Chicago, the city lights beginning to glow against the darkening sky. 6 months later, spring 2026, Marcus stood on the small stage of the elementary school in Englewood, the same school where he'd taught rhythm to 5th graders during those early days at the CSO education program. Today he was here with the Elena Webb Foundation, presenting scholarships to 3 students who wanted to study music. The foundation was thriving. 20 fellows would start the next cohort in the fall. Marcus had just signed a 3-year contract with the CSO and was in talks with the Met about their next season. But this moment, standing in front of these kids with their families beaming in the audience, this felt more important than any of it. One of the scholarship recipients was Deshaun, the boy who'd asked Marcus to sing that first day. He was in 6th grade now, taller, his voice starting to change. Marcus handed him the certificate. What are you going to study? Deshawn grinned, suddenly shy. Voice, I want to sing like you, Mr. Webb. Marcus knelt down to the boy's level, looking him in the eyes. Then remember this, he said quietly. Your voice isn't just an instrument. It's your truth. Don't ever let anyone silence it. No matter what they say about where you come from or who they think you are. You understand? Deshawn nodded seriously. I won't, Mr. Webb, I promise. As Marcus watched the 3 scholarship recipients leave with their families, all of them chattering excitedly about summer programs and voice lessons and possibilities, he felt something settle in his chest. A profound sense of completion. His career had been restored. Better than restored. Reborn. The foundation was giving others what Roberto had given him. His daughter was thriving. Elena's memory was honored in a way that helped others love completely, sacrifice completely, and find their way back when they thought all was lost. But this moment, watching a child hold a scholarship certificate in hands too small to fully understand what it meant, seeing the hope in his mother's eyes, this was what Elena would have wanted most. He pulled out his phone and looked at his favorite photo of her, taken in 2001, her smile wide, her eyes bright with life and love. We did it, baby, he whispered. We turned all that grief into something beautiful. He put the phone away and walked out of the school into a perfect April afternoon. The playground was full of children's laughter. Marcus stood on the sidewalk for a moment, tilted his face toward the sun, and closed his eyes. Without thinking about it, he began to hum. Just a few bars of Nessun Dorma. The same aria he'd sung in an empty theater at 2:47 a.m. when he thought no one was listening. The same aria Vivienne had forced him to perform in a hallway, intending to humiliate him. The same aria that had changed everything. His voice, warm and true and free, rose into the spring air. And somewhere he was absolutely certain, Elena was listening. If this story moved you, subscribe for more tales of hidden worth revealed and justice served. Your support helps us share stories that prove it's never too late to reclaim your voice.